Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
And the name of the show is Deep Space Babylon 59. Eric, finally, we're back doing this again. It has been 8 months since the hour of scampering, and we are finally back doing this again. So I want to ask everybody to bear with us as we get our heads back in this mode or these modes, because Eric and I both had a kind of a moment of panic before we watched each of these episodes going with our respective shows that we're not familiar with. Oh crap, am I going to remember enough about not just what's happened, but the mythologies of these characters and names of species and names of characters?
Yeah.
And finally, we are back doing this. So we had, the reason it's been so long is because Eric and I had kind of a crisis for a while trying to decide what exactly to do with this show, because we were in the middle of so many other things, and there didn't seem to be a ton of interest in this. It was difficult to prioritize it, and over time, more people seem to be interested in these episodes and in the show, and we've been getting requests to bring it back. And so, but the main reason we're doing it is just because Eric and I really want to watch through these shows. I want to see Babylon 5. He wants to see Deep Space Nine, and Eric has been not refreshing himself, learning something about Star Trek. I almost said that in the first place. Going through some TNG, so you now are more familiar with the Star Trek universe.
I am.
And I am no more familiar with the Babylon 5 universe.
Well, there's nothing else you can watch
than I was last time.
There's some Peter David novels you can
read. Sure, I'll do that. You're reading a TNG novel right now.
I am reading a TNG novel written by Peter David.
Peter David, yep. Who did he write one of these? I think you said that?
Yes. Season 2, I think. He writes the one with Lando's wives, and it's wonderful.
I'm looking forward to that. That'll be great. So anyway, for those of you that were asking for us to bring this back, here it is. Congratulate. Merry Christmas. And we're going to go ahead and just get straight into it. We're going to try to make these a little bit shorter because we want to be able to work our way through these shows, and that will make it easier on us. And hopefully folks that weren't real sure about watching these on an episode-to-episode basis will find it easier to do so if these are a little bit shorter. So we're going to do just about 15 minutes on each episode. And who should go first this time?
Well, we were alternating, but
I don't know what it was last time. It's not important.
You want to call
so I just figured I'd let you pick.
I really... Well, let's start with Deep Space Nine.
All right, we'll start with Deep Space Nine.
Right, so which is called...
The episode in question for DS9 is Battle Lines.
Battle Lines.
This is episode 12. Both of these today, we should mention front load and say both of these today are going to be the 12th episodes of season 1, because I goofed with Bab 5 and I accidentally went to episode 12 because I forgot that we were one behind with that because of the pilot and how that works out. So anyway, we are going to watch episode 11 before the next one, and we'll just mention a couple things about it in the next show. We're not going to do a whole show on it. So from now on, we'll be lined up number-wise. And that was Eric's idea. He was like, well, why don't we just keep it synced? And,
yeah.
That last episode you said wasn't the most important thing.
I don't think so, based on that description. We'll see.
It's been a while since you've seen these.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
But yeah, that's a Garibaldi episode.
I'm not
looking forward to
Bab-expert.
I'm sure there's a name for them. You know, everybody's got something. I mean, every show's got some name for their.
I don't know what the Babylon 5 people are called.
For their connoisseurs. But anyway, okay. So, battle lines.
Okay, so I'm gonna up front start with a question.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you can give us our brief synopsis.
Do the Ennis and the Noel Ennis ever come back? Okay.
No, they do not.
Okay.
And to your next question, of course, always spoilers on the show. To your next question, Opaka kind of comes back.
Well, she said that they would meet again.
Yeah, and you would have thought that it would have been in a significant way, and it's questionable when she returns whether or not it's even really her, and it's not for any amount of time.
Oh, so, good. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, and I like that actress a lot, and I really dislike that they didn't do more with her before this happened, or that they didn't find a cool way to bring her back. And when you get to the next Kai and you see what that whole thing ends up being like, because I don't want to spoil too much, you're gonna wish you could have seen them on screen together.
Okay.
But or at least I do. I think she's phenomenal and gets nothing to do. But
do you know her from anything else? Or you just know her as...
No, I just mean
Okay.
in that role. I mean,
Okay.
even just in this episode, you can tell there's so much going on behind her eyes.
That's
that, like, she could have been great. I mean, you can just tell from what little we get with her in this, I think. That seems like an actress that is just too good for this material. Or not for this material, but too good for not getting enough to do. So anyway, well, go ahead and get us into it a little bit.
All right.
Tell us a little bit about this episode, Eric.
So in this episode, Opaka, who is the Kai, which is a major religious figure
It's
for
like
the
it's like the
Bajoran.
Pope for the Roman Catholics.
Comes to Deep Space Nine, and they decide to take her through the wormhole. And they're like, all right, well, you saw the wormhole, we're going home. And she's like, no, I want to see more. And then they crash land on a planet which has like 6 inhabitants that are warring with each other. And
including Mike Ehrmantraut from Breaking Bad.
yeah. You know, I don't know if anyone knows his name. Everyone I've ever heard refer to him refers to him as
I know,
Mike from Breaking
and
Bad.
I used to know it, but I always call Mike Ehrmantraut because he has the best last name. We keep running into him in things.
Yeah,
he comes up all the time.
Yep. He was born to be an old man, right?
Yes.
Like
yes,
you can see it in his face where it's like, you need some lines there. You need to see some lines like right here.
You know, I hadn't seen this episode in forever. For a second, I thought it didn't really need to be him, and maybe he was wasted in it. And then after a while, I was like, no, I see why you cast him.
Yeah, yeah. I also feel like I know the leader of the Nolanus.
I wondered about
from
that.
something.
I guess we could have done some research before, 5 minutes of cursory research before we did our video. But anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
But so there's 6 people on this planet, and half of them are the Ennis, and the other half are the Nolanus, and they have been warring forever. And neither of them.
And there is no third faction called the Garth Ennis.
Yeah,
there could have been.
And none of them die, or they do die, but they come back. There's some kind of biomechanical something in the atmosphere.
It's microbes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm unclear with how they get in the
breathe.
body.
Yeah, I am too.
Because I would think that everyone there, even if they hadn't died, would have them in their system and then wouldn't be able to leave the planet based on the resolution of the episode. But somehow...
Oh, yeah, good point. Well, yeah, somehow it's just, if you die, then that happens, and you're not able to...
you can't leave without dying. It's okay.
So somehow, rather than microbes don't get in your system unless you're dead.
I don't.
Oh, that's a good question.
I don't know.
I hadn't really thought of that. Yeah, weird.
Because
otherwise it would just be they got the microbes from whatever is punishing them. Because that's played very much as a conceit, right? Like, we don't really know what the entity is that does this to them. We don't know any of that. But the fact that it happens to the Kai, of course, means that it could happen to anybody on that planet.
So the Kai dies in the crash. And they join up with they're taken in by the Ennis. Sisko's trying to find a way to make peace for these two. He offers to take them both off planet or off the moon and put them somewhere else. But we find out both that they cannot leave because if they leave, they'll die. And 2, that they don't really want to stop fighting. But the Kai decides, well, 1, she's going to die if she leaves anyways. So she's staying there, and she's going to try and enlighten these people or help them find a better way.
And claims that she knew that there was some mission the prophets wanted her to go on, and that's why she got it about in the first place.
Yeah.
And that she also, she didn't know this, but she claims that it's also why Kira's there, so that she can understand something about herself and her violent ways.
Which.
And of course, spiritual leader, she's going to probably interpret a lot of things as
I'd gotten that
the will of the prophet.
That she was complaining and naggy, but I hadn't gotten violent from Kira.
Well, no, I mean, again, it's been a long time since you've watched any of this show, but remember, she was she was a terrorist.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, there was an evil terrorist cell with her ex-boyfriend.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so the whole, she's known violence her whole life. That was already pre-established.
Yeah.
We knew all that.
Okay.
There's really nothing new about her here.
Yeah. Well, except that she's told that she needs to forgive herself.
Sure, but I just mean, like, we don't get any new background for her or anything. Like, that's all stuff we had already.
Yeah. But
you know, I told you I thought this was kind of a mythos-y episode. I remembered it as that. It's not. I mean, we don't even get anything new about the Kai, really. And if you missed the pilot, you would not know what she was, really.
And I completely forgot.
A while. Yeah.
I was asking at the beginning, I was like, have we met her before? Like,
and
what
fair
is
enough.
she?
It's been maybe a year and a half since you saw that, so...
So, I think the number one biggest problem with this episode is I don't think they have the budget to do to execute the idea. I think it's really... Like, it really is like 6 people on both sides, and they get together, and they swing some swords at each other. This needs to be more of... Like, these needs to be armies.
Yeah.
It just seems like it's 6 people in a cave.
We do that a lot in Star Trek?
Yeah.
Or I guess we're just supposed to see it as sort of representative, or if you just said it was like, you know, different sects on different parts of the planet, you know, where it's like guerrilla warfare and stuff, but we kind of act like we're looking at the epic battles. Yeah.
And the big thing is that they've been fighting for so long, they don't even remember why they're fighting, they just hate each other, and they're just going to keep fighting forever.
Yeah.
I feel like we've said that before many times. I didn't think this was a great episode.
Yeah, it's not.
There's some fun performances. Mike from Breaking Bad is good.
It's kind of the thing with Opaka, like being trapped there and stuff, is kind of sad. I just wish we had more with her. I wish we could have related to Kira more.
Well, and
I wish she had any. My main issue with this episode is that she has no interaction with Vienna's at all. And so, like, she's supposed to stay there so she can help them, but she doesn't even develop any sort of a rapport during the episode with them.
No, you're right. Kira develops more rapport.
If they leave her there, she very easily could just get hacked to pieces every day by one of these sides. Is just not going to listen to her. Well, what do we need to listen to you for? We're going to be trapped here forever. There's no way we can leave, and we all want vengeance on the other side. So we have no interest in changing our behavior. So they'll just stab her every day.
I think the biggest disappointment this episode is I've been waiting for like a Cisco episode, and this one kind of plays like that, but I still have no more sense of who he is as a person.
Well, it's certainly more of a Kira episode than it is a Cisco. I mean, it's Cisco in the sense that he makes a big decision at the end, and he has to do the Prime Directive thing. I mean, he has to interpret the Prime Directive for this situation, which is an interesting situation to try to interpret the Prime Directive, I think. I don't like that Bashir comes out and says, "I have a moral dilemma." Yeah, it's Star Trek. Of course, you have one of those. But,
and I have
but I like that, and I kind of like where they come down on it. Maybe
I have a question about the Prime Directive. The Prime Directive is for unsophisticated races that have not yet developed space travel. Yes.
Well, I mean, there's obviously it's about. I mean, it's complicated. It's about some different things. So as far as making yourself known to those races, yes. But even a species like with space travel, you still there are still things where the Prime Directive would apply, where like you're not supposed to interfere in the natural course of their evolution, of their social evolution or a physical evolution. The issue with this is somebody already tampered with them, and so it's not natural in the first place. I wish it wasn't so throwaway that like there's just some entity that did this to it, because you blink and you miss it. And
are they the ones that put the space station stuff there? The orbiting space stations that shoot?
I wasn't sure.
Satellites.
I wasn't sure. I assumed it was the whatever presence did this to them.
It was just the powers that be.
Yeah, we have to. I mean, if it weren't for the probe thing, I would assume it was energy beings. Although it seems like all powerful or very powerful beings tend to also leave probes behind. So I don't know. Anyway, this is not one that sticks with me. The only thing I ever remember about this is Opaka was stuck on a planet where she couldn't die. That's all I ever remember about this. Another thing I kind of dislike about this is early season Star Trek episodes tend to do soundstage planets, tend to do Planet Hell, and then we'll start doing more on-location stuff later on. It's weird to see DS9 go to Planet Hell, because we do so much location stuff later on.
And it really shows here?
Yeah, it does. I'm not saying it can't look good, but this show has its own... And I mean, I'm saying this somewhat retroactively, admittedly, but like this show has its own look and flavor and style over TNG. That's the thing I would have loved to have seen separated from them, where DS9... They go to planets. We do planet episodes so infrequently because we're on a stationary, space station. Wouldn't it be nice if whenever we went to a planet, it was a bigger deal? Yeah, it was a bigger deal.
Yeah. Well, and the big conflict.
Yes, I want some Deep Space Nine space stationery.
The big conflict
like for my envelopes and notes and things.
or what's supposed to be the peace talks when the two sides come. I couldn't figure out if it was supposed to be night or day, because it's lit like it's day, but it's black behind them, and so I wasn't really sure when it was supposed to be happening.
Which is weird because that set is set up where you can change the colors in the background. That's the whole point.
It must have been supposed to be night.
Yeah.
It just wasn't lit like night.
Yeah, that's weird. So it's not great. The shuttle crashing looks good. And the and I mean like the set itself of the shuttle crashed.
Yeah, no, that's
like
good.
the scope of it. That looks really good.
Yeah, and I was a little disappointed that we had Dax and O'Brien in the shuttle as kind of the B plot, but it wasn't a B plot. Like I wanted those two characters kind of hanging out. Like I wanted a little bit more of them because it really was just like we can't find them, we found them. Well, it's difficult to get them. Now we got them. I wanted more of these two people together because I don't think they've really been together yet.
Not a lot, and we try to play it as and they'll be that's an important relationship later. But there's they end up being really interesting. But there's an attempt there at making it kind of like fun and comedic for a minute with like the thing O'Brien has to make that doesn't exist and stuff. But it's a little lame, and overall it's just kind of padded. Like,
well, I'd already forgotten that had happened until you brought it up right now. Is this the first episode that we have without Quark entirely?
I think maybe so.
Interesting.
I think you might be right about that.
This episode was okay. I don't hate this episode, but it really felt like it's a really interesting concept that they didn't get to flesh out. My guess would be primarily because budget share constraints, but this seems like this feels like an idea you could build a novel around. Like it's a really interesting idea. And
it just seemed like whoever wrote it wasn't as intrigued by the idea as maybe whoever came up with it. I'm not saying they're not the same person, but that's kind of how it watches.
Because the idea that they get away from beam-based weaponry and they've gone back to more savage ways, and that they've stopped even attempting battle tactics because who cares when no one can die? You just occasionally run into each other and you stab each other. There's interesting ideas there. I just don't think we get into any of them.
Yeah, and at the end, it's interesting that even with a way out, if they can't leave the planet, they're both petty and they care more about continuing to punish the other side than they do. And I think the idea is supposed to be that they're starting to kind of lose their humanity.
Well,
and Bashir has that line where he says, they've died so much they've forgotten how to live.
Yeah.
So I mean, on paper, it's really interesting.
Well, and the way that Mike from Breaking Bad talks about it, they're self-aware about it.
Yeah.
He talks about no one really knows why, and then when he talks about the they've killed our people, and they're like, okay, well, wouldn't the other side say the same thing? He's like, I'm sure they would. We've killed their people too.
Well, I just thought of this.
I also have a question about breeding.
Yeah.
Why don't they procreate? Why are they? They've been here for hundreds of years, thousands of years, whatever.
I mean, you get the sense that there's only men.
No,
I don't know.
There's women in the background.
Oh, are there?
Yeah,
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Okay, well then there should be an overpopulation problem.
Yeah.
But
or maybe they can't after they die, and then that should be brought up. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, you're right. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you could do with that if you spent more time on it, and especially if you got rid of the shuttlecraft plot. I mean, I guess you have to have that, but it wouldn't have to take as long as it does. It's just you need a little bit more room to ask those questions. Real quick before we move on to the next one, I just thought of this: how in the world do you have the spiritual leader of a whole world there and not talk about the question of afterlife? Like how do you not discuss the spirituality of this? Wouldn't that be the whole point of having her there?
Well, and she died.
Yeah.
And she doesn't talk about an afterlife at all.
Yeah.
Or an absence of an afterlife.
How is religion not brought into this equation?
Yeah. Why else would you put her there? Why would you bring her in for this episode if not?
And what do those people what did those people believe before they couldn't die? What do they think would happen to them in the afterlife if they died? Do they have some kind of religion? Most most races tend to, unless they're except for like usually the really advanced races don't, but even some of them of course do. So I don't know, but. I think maybe she's put in the background as much as she is for the sake of the whole episode not being about a guest star. Because I complain about that a lot, where you'll have an episode that's decent, but it's not about our characters. But how much of this really is still about our characters? I mean, Kira sort of gets an arc, so I guess that's good. And
Cisco gets to make some important decisions.
Yeah, but it's not really it's not really a big like what do you want opportunity for change kind of arc with him.
Bashir gets nothing to do, but I still love him. I don't know why. he's really engaging. I really like that guy.
As I've said before, if you like him now, you will love him later. But I don't know. I think they maybe went too far in that direction in not allowing Kai to take center stage, or the Kai to take the center stage. I think Opaka needs a speech or two to them. I think she needs to sit down with that guy and be like, really think this through. You've lost who you are.
I know you're just a guest star now, but later you'll be a recurring character on the most popular shows on television.
One thing I kind of want to like about it is this I guess kind of interesting is that it is a really standalone one and done episode that creates major important ripples later. Because I mean, we took the Kai out, and she's really important for the politics of Bajor, and we won't really understand how important that is until she's not there and there's a vacuum. And so it's kind of interesting that with this what watches like a really throwaway episode, there's a thing that happens that will be majorly important. And so it's doing that thing where it's trying to be a one and done, episodic show at the same time.
It's also yeah.
Yeah. So we move on now to Babylon 5, the 12th episode. We have skipped the 11th episode. We will do that next time and talk about Mr. Garibaldi. But today we're talking about an episode called By Any Means Necessary. I like that episode title a lot. It's one of those times where I think it works that you have an episode title spoken in dialogue. Maybe I'm partly just saying that because I didn't remember the name of the episode title until it was over, so I wasn't like, oh, there it is, I knew that would show up somewhere. But when you watch or read a story and then you know the title, sometimes that works a little bit better. But anyway, so what happens in this one is we kind of open up the station a little bit and we meet some of the little people that work on the station. I don't mean like little people. I mean people that don't matter to anyone except the blue collar, except that they of course are very important because they make a lot of things run. So we deal with the dock workers, and there's a ship. I think it's a Narn ship. I forget. There's a ship
because that's
beginning.
The one that has the something plant.
Yeah, the Jaquan F. The Jaquan F. Yeah. Real quick, I have such a hard time not just reviewing as I'm doing a synopsis because that's how I write reviews. But anyway, I really like how the two subplots converge and are interwoven in this. I think that's handled really, really well, especially toward the end where you thought you were watching the A story and then it turns back into that other story, and they're really well interwoven, even though they have nothing to do with each other until the impetus that connects them. So that's kind of cool. But anyway, so at the beginning of the episode, you have this crash, and that starts these discussions amongst the workers in the dock about rioting, about striking because they're not being paid well, and I'm not entirely
they're not
sure.
Legally allowed to strike.
Yeah, and I'm not entirely sure what it is about that crash that leads to this conversation. That was the thing that was connective tissue I kind of missed.
It's because it's a major accident, and they're saying it happened because
they're being blamed for it.
Well, and they're saying it happened in the first place.
Oh, that's right.
Because
that's right.
they're overworked and the technology is failing, and a dock worker died.
You're right. Okay, and so that's creating unease amongst the dock workers, and so
it's kind of like the last straw kind of a thing.
Their leader, who could have been obnoxious, I ended up really liking her a lot.
Yeah, me too.
Is trying to get her all the things that they've been wanting forever. They have these are things we don't hear every day in our everyday lives. They have poor wages. They're not being compensated properly. Nobody cares about what happens
They're overworked.
to them.
They're working working like triple shifts.
They work too much, and again, they make a lot of things in the station kind of go round. So they're really important. Meanwhile, you've got one of my favorite recurring things, which is finally some more Londo Jakar stuff. And I feel like it's been a few months since we watched this, but I feel like it's been a while since we've had much of that. And Londo has this flower this plant that apparently is kind of like a narcotic or something, and he doesn't even realize that, or it doesn't matter to him. But it's important for this ritual for this holiday that they have, a period of days, and they're sun worshippers. And when the sun hits a certain place on their planet, they're all supposed to do this ritual that has to do with this plant. And even on the station, they're supposed to do it, even if they're not on the planet. And unfortunately, there was some of that plant on the ship that crashed, and it's gone now. And Londo has one and uses it in, unless he's just lying about this, but I don't think he is, because he even says that like he used up some of it before he gets rid of it. But anyway, he uses it in a drink that makes it more potent, and apparently, again, seems to almost give you like a narcotic experience.
It opens whole new universes.
Whole new universes, yeah. And because he hates Jakar, he tries to sell it to him at an exorbitant price, and then once Jakar agrees to pay it, he refuses to sell it to him just because he's mad at him for what happened to his nephew and a bunch of other stuff, and so he won't sell it to him. And at the end of the day, Sinclair ends up, I'm trying to get all my names straight again because it's been so long since we've talked about the show. Sinclair ends up solving the situation, interestingly, in a really similar way as he solves the main A-plot situation, which is to kind of figure out, I don't know, not a loophole, but like he kind of bends a law or an order a little bit in order to make it possible to get what he needs and to create peace. And so the whole episode is kind of about creating peace through having to sometimes break or bend a rule.
It's a real kind of like homework, like going through every line and finding something that he can use in both situations, because the other one is, well, technically that plant's illegal for you to have.
Yeah, and so that's the way he solves that, and then the way he solves, and I actually really like this a lot. The way he solves the issue with the dock workers, because so they end up striking, and then there's a law that's evoked that hasn't been evoked in a really long time. I had it written down. Called the Rush Act, and that makes it so that their strike is illegal, and they go ahead and strike anyway. And so Sinclair is
their strike's illegal already. They're not allowed to strike contractually. The Rush Act lets them round them all up, and then bring in new dock workers.
And Sinclair is given the order, the license, but the command to stop this strike by any means necessary. And he takes any means necessary to mean, okay, I can allocate funds that are supposed to go to military stuff for what the dock workers want, and that will stop the problem. And of course,
that will end the strike.
Yeah, and I thought that was some really clever maneuvering. And then at the end, of course, he ends up making political enemies over it. This is, as I'm watching it, kind of a really standard, mediocre political episode that is more interesting when you think about it. That's kind of what I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I like this episode, but it's not like a super standout episode.
Yeah.
It's more, I can imagine watching like week to week, like it's almost like, okay, so he did something else that annoys Earth government, it's going to come back to haunt him. We get it.
That's true, but I like that we're opening the station up constantly as a society and not just a space station. Because, I mean, this really is a living and breathing, world.
Have we gotten to the bums yet?
I think that was the previous episode we didn't watch.
Okay. So
because there was something in that synopsis about like the underground or something, and so I think it's probably in that Garibaldi episode.
There's a bunch of people that
so maybe these end up being kind of companion pieces that I'm going to end up watching backwards.
There's a bunch of people that get to Babylon 5 just as like stowaways and things like that, and they have nowhere to live. And so like there are homeless people on Babylon 5, and they all live in the.
That's really cool. Yeah. So you got like vagabonds or something.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
And they don't have the money to leave. They can't go anywhere else. They're just stuck there.
This is another episode that concerns about half the cast and leaves the other half the cast out.
Yeah. Delenn, once again, is nowhere to be seen.
And the telepath lady.
Yes. She's in and out. She's more of a recurring than a main.
Yeah, I keep expecting her to be more prominent than she has been, but
yeah,
I say half. I guess like
that's
a quarter.
Talia Winters.
Yeah, okay.
And Garibaldi doesn't get much to do, and neither does. I keep forgetting her name. Like on video, I keep forgetting her name. Even 8 months ago, I can never remember her name, and I don't know why. But the girl on the
lady on the bridge, yeah. But he's, I mean, obviously Garibaldi has to be here a little bit, even though he's not really featured, just because he's the security guy, and so he has to bring all.
Well, and you know what I really like that I think is a really nice character thing is he is in the front of all of his men. Like it's not I don't really want to do this, so I'm going to send my guys to do it, but I'm going to feel bad. He is in the front of them.
Yeah, and I said like it's more interesting when you think about it. I think it's really straightforward. You know what I mean? Just watching it, there's not a whole lot to really break down. Like it's clear what it's getting at. I don't think it's horribly preachy about it. It's just be sensible, pay people what they're worth, and then they'll do your job. I like that as soon as they get what they're asking for, they're all just happy and they want to go back to work. It's not like they don't try to take advantage of the system or anything. They just they don't even mind the job they're doing.
It's just we are working in unreasonable conditions.
Yeah.
And if we worked in reasonable conditions, it would be fine.
And then with Sinclair, of course, the big kind of dilemma is do you do the bureaucratic thing and make sure that you're going to be okay for yourself, or do you do the right thing and take those consequences later? In his doing the right thing, it's really easy to understand all the politicians and bureaucrats that are doing the wrong thing.
Well, and I mean, I think it's kind of funny where they're like, let's get back to work, and I'm like, so you've all been up for how long striking? Just gonna go, and you're complaining that all of the machinery is substandard and it's falling apart and it won't last 2 more months. You're just gonna immediately jump right back on the machinery. Yeah, I almost
expected Sinclair to give like a number 4, which would be like, and you guys, and like most of you except for a skeleton crew can be off until we fix the equipment. Like maybe that should have been in there.
Well,
but the sentiment I appreciate.
One of the things I thought was interesting at the very, very beginning is that we are told it's not just that this equipment is like outdated and falling apart. Garibaldi tells us that it's the equipment that it was built with is substandard because it was cheap to begin with. Like this isn't just it's past its prime technology. Like we built cheap supplies.
It was put together in the first place.
Yeah, because it was cheap.
Yeah, so it's like universal housing or something. I like that the senator guy is a human being. I feel like the guy who's brought in to the negotiator guy is less so. He's an absolute what is Zento?
Yes.
Yeah, he's a cartoon character.
I don't think he ever comes back
because
I don't think so.
He ought to. Sort of like Opaka ought to come back because this creates important waves, and I think you'd see him again.
I think this ends up.
Because the senator guy's like, he's got powerful friends. And you've made enemies today, and they make it seem like it's Zinto with like people under him. You know. I
don't think this episode ever like specifically gets referenced. It's just one another line of things that Sinclair has done that Earth government doesn't like. I don't know if we ever actually get a specific callback to this episode.
It's probably one of those episodes that Babylon 5 fans like forget about, and it would be easy to not even remember exactly what happens in it. But I guess it's and like it doesn't do a whole lot moving forward. Even the Londo Jakar relationship.
No, it's just
having
fun with those 2 characters.
It's just messing with those characters some more.
And Londo gets stacked like a clown.
He gets to act like Cesar Romero, like not just a clown, a specific clown. He's got a moment when he's revealed he's not going to be, or no, not even when he's revealed it yet. It's just when he reveals he has the plan. He's like, I practically, yeah, he does a whole 60s Joker thing. I practically expected him to do like the Jack Nicholson, when he leaves. But yeah, I don't have a whole lot else to say about it. I guess it's just another, not just in giving us another example of the Sinclair, and giving the government a hard time, but it's also just another example of what the politics on that station are like.
Well, I think it's
subgroup.
It's interesting that
like we had a little bit of a sense already of class warfare, but now we really have that.
Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting to deal with the leaders and people in positions, how hard it is to actually do the right thing. Like, it's really easy to just stand back and be like, well, why don't you just do the right thing? Well, there's a lot of consequences politically for any choices you make, and when you're specifically being told to do one thing and you do the other, like, that's going to have blowback.
Yeah, and it's so complicated because part of it is it's difficult to do the right thing if everybody's not doing the right thing because of the kinds of consequences that you'll have, not just for you personally, I said that earlier, but also in helping people later. If you get yourself too crippled, then you can't do anything. If you get your hands tied, it's like, well, we're gonna make sure and limit that guy's power as much as humanly possible. Well, then what do you do with that? And I also like the political social commentary about people at the tip top, both in business and in government, not being there on the floor and knowing how things run. So theoretically, we have the money we need allocated to run this properly, but it's the absolute bottom dollar, and you're not there. You don't know what it's really like, and that was a discussion I appreciated. And again, I don't know. I didn't feel like it was horribly heavy-handed or anything.
No, it just...
We have had some of that in this show. I think this one worked okay.
It just felt like these are issues that are going to keep moving forward.
It would have seemed a lot more ham-fisted if she wasn't reasonable.
Yes.
The woman that runs it. Like, that was really important.
And she's really good.
I don't know if she comes back, but...
I don't think so.
She ought to.
She's got a flirty moment with Garibaldi, which makes me think that she does come back, but I just didn't remember that she's from this episode, but I'm not sure off the top of my head.
So anything else you wanted to bring up about that one?
I don't think so.
Okay, I guess we're good. Well, a couple of fine episodes. I guess this one, if we have to compare them, the Babylon 5 this week was more fun to watch than the Deep Space Nine episode.
What it really needed was
less padded,
what Deep Space Nine
pacing.
really needs was a subplot with Odo and
that's right, and Quark, and something about
wacky antics.
Yeah, basically Quark needed to be a story where Quark keeps some artifact from the changeling homeworld or something from him. That's what we needed. But anyway, man, it is so difficult to talk about that show without telling Eric too much stuff before he's gotten there, and I'm sure you sometimes have the same problem with Bab 5. I guess next time with Babylon 5, we're going to get the most important episode of that season.
Every season of Babylon 5 has like a subtitle, and the subtitle is also the title of one of the episodes, so season 1 is Signs of Importance. Next episode is going to be Signs of Importance.
What do we have next time on DS9? DS9 does not do that. DS9...
I've never heard of a TV show doing that, period.
Yeah, I haven't either. Next time we get the Storyteller, which is not great.
Oh, Jim Henson?
No. So, so most certainly we will enjoy your episode better than my episode next time. We say as if we made these shows. Everybody, thanks so much for watching. Sure appreciate it. Leave your comments. I hope folks are excited about the show coming back. We're gonna do it regardless of who's watching.
Yeah.
Because we just really want to watch through these, and obviously we have free will, and we could just sit down and just watch them if we wanted to. But watching them side by side like we're wanting to do is a weird experiment and something that we really kind of want to make videos about. So.
Yeah.
So here we are. Anyway, thanks again for watching, and we will see you again, hopefully, next week. I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
See you later, folks.